Next up, we have Shannon Kiefhaber and Alex Moore. Alex and Shannon.
Hey, that was a tough one to follow.
Yeah.
But we both are so grateful to be here. I think we had this question last night. We are indeed not partners, but we have similar stories. So just wanted to say that.
So let's talk about, we do have some pictures, but before we get to the pictures, let's briefly talk about each of your journeys.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Alex Moore. I originally am from West Michigan, but live in San Francisco now. My background is actually in medicine. I was a nurse practitioner for 10 years and started investing by buying rental properties about halfway into that 10-year. And that kind of just sparked and launched it. I think it felt like a huge risk when I started. And it
Why?
It felt like a liability, which I know it isn't, but I think as soon as I bought the property, I thought of everything that could go wrong. And it was like, what if the roof caves in? What if there is a storm that wipes it out?
How old were you when you bought your first one?
Oh, I think I was 27.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Shannon, how did you start?
So I am a civil engineer background and met my husband in college who's a pilot in the Navy, and so a fighter pilot. And so the Navy moved us around, and so we started buying single family properties outside of the Navy base because we became accidental landlords when the Navy relocated us, which happens quite often. And so yeah, we got started buying single family and duplexes in Virginia Beach.
And how old were you when you bought your first one?
I had a 3-year-old and an 11-month-old, and my husband was deployed. So we communicated via email, and I was like, congratulations, we have our first investment property. And he's like, I am at war, but congratulations. He's like, I didn't think you'd want to take on more, but sure. Yeah, so I was like 33. Yeah.
And Alex, do you have children?
I do. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. They're both boys, and the 5-month-old is upstairs with my mom. So it's a journey.
So why they're together on this panel is because I hear, when I ask you all, why are you not doing it yet? I hear reasons. And many times I hear, I have young children. So voila. So share some more. What kind of products are you now buying, and how has your portfolio changed?
Yeah, that's part of why we met. So the journey from 2 to 4 unit value add multifamily to getting commercial property has not been easy, and it has presented challenges every day. And one of the things that happened when I decided to go commercial was, okay, maybe I should try some different asset classes and learn. So bought a retail center and bought an industrial building, an apartment building, and then we have the portfolio in West Michigan as well of the 2 to 4 units. So that's kind of how we ramped up. And we met because I am learning how to lease up places in the retail center, because that's a continual journey too.
I do that.
Yes, you do that well. I'm learning.
So actually one of the things I wanted to comment on was, for those in the audience, so my spouse was not interested in investing in real estate at all. And he wanted to...
Was he against it, or was he just not interested, scared?
Really terrified. And the kind of person that wants to put his money underneath the mattress and sleep on it. And so the way I was able to convince him into starting to invest or buying the first property was, I said, well, we have these 2 kids. We want them to go to college. Why not, instead of buying the 529 or buying the prepayment college plan, I was like, let's buy this house. And we'll put it on a 30-year note. We'll pay excess cash flow. We can pay it down. We'll have it paid off in 15 years. We'll have a $100,000 house paid off, cash out refinance. And that's how I convinced him. And so I was like, after we did the first one, then I'm like, well, we have 2 kids, so we should probably buy a second property. And then after that, once he it got rid of the fear. He was like, oh, okay, we can do this.
But where did that come from in your head to think that way? Because, I mean, so I invest, right? We know that. But I have a 529 and I have a Florida prepaid. And I never thought that. That just did not pop in my, I just did that.
Yeah,
and then invested.
Wish I could take credit. So Bigger Pockets, if anyone listens to that.
Bigger
I listen to a lot of
Pockets
podcasts.
it's very educational.
I always say, like, I feel like I am super knowledgeable about a lot of different aspects. I'm not the subject matter expert in any one, but yeah, I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts. And there's a lot of different ways. And I was like, oh, that one would be super convincing for my husband. I'm going to use that one.
And have you been in a mastermind?
I did. Yeah, one.
Yeah. Raise your hand in the audience if you are in a mastermind or you have been in a mastermind. So actually stand up if you've been in a mastermind or are currently in one. Right, so we all need to be in more masterminds in our specific asset classes. So maybe if you're thinking about it, look at the people around the room and ask them what they're in or which ones they're in, because I think they're helpful for education. All right, thanks, ladies. So how has your portfolio changed and grown and geographically?
Yeah, so we moved from Virginia Beach back to Florida 3 years ago, and so
Why?
my husband's an airline pilot, and he got American Airlines in Miami, and then I moved home to help my family out. My father was an owner builder in industrial warehouses, flex spaces, and I came home one time during COVID and realized that the absentee landlord that I was trying to find and buy multifamily properties from happened to be my own parents. And there was no P&L and rent roll, and rents hadn't been raised since 2013, and I felt like it was amazing because I was doing it on my own. I had the confidence and enough knowledge, not all of it, but enough to confidently step in, or for my parents to at least believe that I could do it and help take over for the family real estate portfolio.
Have you tried to do things differently than your parents did?
Oh, so different. And my dad
How'd that
and
go over?
we have a race. Still to this day, when we have to find a lease, he goes to the filing cabinet and I get on my phone and pull up Google Drive, and we see who can pull up the information off the lease quicker, and I win every
That's
time.
hilarious. That's Josie and me. I'm going to the files and she's going online. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my partners in Virginia Beach. And Beth, I'm going to do this for you because I always say that women don't talk numbers. So we bought $22 million worth of real estate in 2022 in Virginia Beach. And that's one of our properties that we bought, multifamily.
How did you finance them?
We used a bridge lender. And, you know, when you hear about what's going on in the lending environment, and I could talk volumes about that. But if you execute your business plan, bridge lending is actually okay. We accelerated our business plan. We were planning on renovating units in 2 years, but we had to accelerate that because interest rates skyrocketed and we didn't have an interest rate cap on the first property. And we renovated 63 units in 10 months and got rents up to where our pro forma was supposed to be. And we refinanced into agency debt, and it's a great property.
Did you have any resistance on finding the first lender, the bridge lender?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's why we had to go bridge. We weren't qualified to get agency debt because even though we all had experience in different aspects of real estate, we didn't have the multifamily experience. So.
And you were a woman. Do you think that impacted it at all?
I think it was straight not having the experience, yeah.
So Alex, talk about your first commercial deal.
That one was in Phoenix.
So you live in?
San Francisco.
And you're buying in?
Phoenix.
Remember, mine are 10 minutes from my house.
I know.
And I have this thing, it's called a control. I like to have control. I drive by my properties. For all my investors in the room, I drive by them every week, at least almost every day.
I don't blame you. I think it was a really tough thing because I had to learn a market that I didn't grow up in because that's originally where I started investing. But being able to get there with one plane ride that was the buy box for me. And at that time, pricing in the Bay Area was 3 cap for some really rundown stuff. So it was kind of a forcing function to learn a new market and get to know the brokers and be comfortable with the rental landscape too, because I knew West Michigan like the back of my hand. I knew which corner could get what for rent. And so it's a really good skill to learn, even if you're not going to be actively buying your own properties. If you're an LP, you also want to be comfortable looking at a market and looking at a pro forma saying you don't have to underwrite it fully to that extent, but you should be able to kind of get an intuition of if that is an achievable number. So I think is a good skill to learn if you're going to be an investor. Hey, does this feel right?
So spouse, supportive, scared, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's supportive. He's at home with my 3-year-old right now. And I think he, depending on the day, is more or less anxious. I think generally with the background in medicine, I think, no one's going to die. I think that was kind of my baseline. I'm like, no one's going to die. If we can hold on to a property, you can recover. And I think time is on your hand if you can figure out a lever to give yourself some more time. And so that has instilled a lot more confidence and lets you sleep at night if you can just have a little bit more time to stabilize an asset and get through a cycle or additional CapEx that's needed, because there's always something that's going to come up.
So speaking of that, there's always something that could come up. So obstacles, share some stories about, didn't expect that this happened and this is what we did about it.
Like horror stories?
Sure. I want to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? This is not like, I'm not trying to snow you all. There are problems. Let me tell you, last night from 12:30 to 2:30, Jessica, we had a big freaking problem.
Yeah, I'll share probably my scariest one.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk to why it's so important to have great friends or access to capital. So the properties that we bought in Virginia Beach, we 1031 exchanged them when we moved to Florida, and I bought an 8-unit apartment building. And so the 1031 money was my down payment. It was like $300,000. And I was financing the rest. It was about like $900,000. And we go, like we're 7 days out from closing, and I'm just getting a loan from a bank, and the bank is like, we need a few more days just to get everything together to close. And I was like, okay, I'll go to the seller. Hey, everything's great. I just need to extend closing by 3 days. No, absolutely no. You will forfeit your $150 deposit, and that will be it. And I was dying. I certainly couldn't tell my husband. And at this point, I was kind of newer into my journey, and I really didn't have the access to capital like I do now. This taught me such a good lesson. I have lines of credit now, just lots of ways to solve this, but I was totally terrified. So just started calling friends and family, and I pulled together $900,000 in 3 days and closed on a property.
How those calls go?
Oh my God, it was
like, were
actually,
you calling people like, you're my best friend and I need as much money as that you can pull together on a second mortgage of your house? Like, I would do that with Janet, right?
Well,
I need money.
Actually, I called my husband's aunt and uncle had just sold their house in Park City, Utah, and I knew. But I was like, the call was more like, hey, can I borrow this? Do you have to tell Andy?
Oh, that's funny. Really?
Well, because I was just scared that like everyone was going to see it as my fault and lose confidence in me. And I'm like, I swear, like this isn't my fault. I don't think.
Oh my God.
But that was
you
a
did
scary
it. You
one.
closed, and
We closed, and then the bank refinanced, and oh my gosh. So I didn't catch it. I don't know if the bank didn't catch this, or maybe they were just like I'm sorry, we suck. Please do business with us still. But I was like it was a 0.5% fee for lender fee, for borrowing the money. I didn't get charged it. It wasn't on the settlement statement.
They felt bad, right?
I don't know if it was an accident or, So anyway, I ended up winning on that one.
As you should. How about you, Alex?
One of the first investments, which I forgot to mention, was I also do short-term rentals.
So you're all over the place.
I am all over the place.
I don't recommend that.
You do?
I do not.
I don't either.
How did I tell you to lease your property? What did I tell you?
So you told me to fire the leasing broker and go out there and do it myself. And
Get on a plane and go?
Yeah.
Canvassing.
Yes.
Shocking that I made that suggestion.
Yes, shocking. But yeah, one of the first properties was short-term rental, and I purchased it in Maui, which looked great because, hey, it's a perennial market and appreciation's amazing. I needed a full renovation because it was a divorce settlement. I don't know if you know this, but there's an ocean on all sides. I forgot to factor in lead time for supplies. Do you know who flew to Maui multiple times with checked bags with flooring? So yeah, I totally forgot about the 6-week lead time on materials. So that added an extra layer of challenge. Also, getting contractors and subcontractors to show up on an island when it's a good surf day is really tough. So I took my Midwest mentality of you show up when you say you are, I'm gonna pay you what you said. And it worked okay, but not so well. I just continued to pretend I was from Michigan and didn't let them know I was from California because they also don't like Californians.
Do you still own that?
I do. I own both of those rentals. They have doubled in their value when I purchased them.
Okay, so that
yeah.
it turned out well.
Turned out very well, but you got to get them at the right moment. So the other one was during COVID, an investor who had like 10 properties, couldn't carry them.
I could have stayed there when I was in Maui in
You
December.
definitely could have. I will send you the listing next time. You're welcome to stay.
Okay, so we talked about not having enough money to start. We talked about it's too complicated. We talked about it's too risky, right? And we didn't really talk about fear, but that's all in there, right? And we talked about we don't know anyone. So in your journeys, have you checked those boxes of all of those? And how do you, and I think now we can check off the box of I have young kids and I can't. Is that gone out the window now? Yes, okay. So that box, because you guys have overcome that. But what advice can we give the ladies and men in the room on too complicated, too risky, fear, and not enough money? Have you put in money in every one of your deals?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of the deals were self-funded.
So all your deals, or most of them, you had no other partners?
Just up until recently, I started taking limited partners.
Okay, and all your deals, are they all your own money or do you have partners?
All of our money until we did the multifamily, and that was with partners, and then the second property we syndicated.
Okay, so can you address those issues, those concerns?
I think my top one continues to be fear. I think when you get into something you don't know, my personality is I want to know everything before I jump in. There's no way to know that. I think the biggest way that I've come to overcome that is to expand my network. Call, who have been doing this much longer than me, has really been the asset. And you can never know enough people. I've found out there's never a number where you're like, okay, I have my people and I don't need to know anyone else. You can always know more and learn more. And I've been surprised how generous people can be when you have a good question. I think that's been something I encourage everyone when they are getting started is just to find people who you want to learn from, ask them if you can treat them in a lunch or a coffee at a time that works for them. Make your schedule clear and just have them give you times. And then you buy them the coffee, the lunch. You show up early, you do that. And just be grateful for the knowledge that they're willing to share to you and the time. And that's been a huge asset, just because you can call them again and say, hey, I did X, Y, and Z things. It's turning out like this. Can you help me now? And that's been huge.
Excellent.
As I mentioned, I'm a big reader. Actually, if you come to our breakout session, I've got 2 books to give away, Who Not How and Tax Strategies of an Advanced Real Estate Professional. So
Who Not How is one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer in habits and habit stacking, and that is how you make life easier. A recent quote, we become our habits and our kids become us. And that was like one of the most powerful things I've ever read. And so I think for whatever that habit is, if it's exercise, eating, but for real estate, I think the number one thing that my husband and I did from the beginning, the habit was we paid ourselves first. And so no matter what stage you are in your journey, if you haven't even bought your first property or you are, open that bank account and I give it a fun name. Mine's Shannon's Real Estate Fund. And we pay ourselves first every month. And so even if you feel like I'm so busy right now, I can't underwrite 10 deals or I can't go make broker calls, you know what you can do? You can pay yourself. And so that you can feel like every month you are starting to achieve your goal. And then when that deal comes, guess what? You have a fund waiting for you to buy it. And you can say yes to that opportunity. So
do you do it monthly?
Yeah, or in the beginning, when I was working in my W-2 job, I would get, a year-end bonus and it would go straight into the Shannon's Real Estate Fund. And so my husband was like, it'd be really fun if we could buy a liability one of these days and have fun with this money instead of always buying assets. But we're in a transition phase in our life where we are finally getting to enjoy some of the fruits of that labor. But still to this day, I'll drain the fund for something and Andy will be like, okay, I don't feel good right now. We need to have $5,000 in this fund, so we can feel comfortable. And so I think it's been a good thing for both of us.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Have you found resistance? So you both have syndicated something. So where did you find the money to bring in the partners?
For me, it was mostly our extended friend network.
How did you know they were interested?
Oh, they couldn't stop asking questions. Like, they all wanted to know, how do you get into real estate? How do you buy something? And then they would ask enough questions, or I would, have them over for dinner and they'd be like, oh, I don't want to buy anything now. After asking the dozens of questions, I encourage everyone to do it. I think it's a great low risk thing if you start off with an asset that you feel like this isn't going to sink me from a size perspective. It's in a location, and you can learn all about operating an asset. And then if you decide you don't like it, sell it, and you can find an operator you do like. But now you know what you should be asking from an operator. So I think it's a great learning experience. But I do realize that most people don't want to own assets, but I think it's just a great opportunity to just try it. And I think 2 units is, for me, it was like, hey, I could sell this tomorrow, because it's in a market that has really high demand. So if you can sell it tomorrow because you decided it didn't work out, that's okay. It's not a failure. You did the thing. But for a lot of folks, they decide, I don't want to do it. I just want to put money with you. And so that ended up being my initial pool of investors.
Were you worried? Oh my gosh, my neighbors are going to give me money, and what if this doesn't go well? This is
Terrifying.
To
Yeah,
that too.
I mean, I feel like I'm more worried about someone's $20,000 in our investment than my $200,000 in an investment.
100%.
It's terrifying. But I want to make sure I did say, I do my own deals. I've been a GP, but I'm also a limited partner in investors in women in this room. So I think it's a great way to diversify, even if you have all the knowledge and skills. I mean, I don't know the Miami market better than Natasha knows the Miami market. I'm going to invest in Natasha's deal. I want to diversify. I don't know Texas better than Dr. Erin Hudson. I'm going to invest in her deals as a LP because it's, quite frankly, easy, and they're subject matter experts in what they do.
We give checks and we get checks. I've come around, this LP thing, in the beginning I thought, I can just be an LP, right? And then I'm going to be a GP. I really like being the LP now.
That's
again.
great.
It's like awesome. They do the work. Thank you, Natasha. You keep doing the work, and I'll just get the checks. So the same thing with you, friends and family. Who were your investors?
Yeah, friends and family. I'd say now we are trying to break out into a larger investor pool. We host a monthly mastermind call where we bring in guests to talk about their subject matter expertise. We've had all asset classes on that. And just trying to, I think reach outside of just friends and family, but that's definitely outside my comfort zone.
Are all of your investors accredited?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, where a lot of my friends and family investors came from is people would come up to me and say, I want to do what you're doing. Can I invest with you? And I would put them on my Evernote on my phone, because it wasn't anywhere. I was, okay, well, Alex Morse. And then when I would find a project to buy, I would send it out to all of those people, but a very small portion really want.
The problem is we have to talk about what we do to get people to want to invest with us.
Exactly.
And that's terrifying.
Why is it terrifying?
I don't know. I've never shared some of what I shared on the stage right now. It's scary to do, so.
But here's the difference, and again, I love men. So even though I love men, they are talking about this. We need to do better. I think we were just told when we were younger, right, it's not polite to talk about money. I think. My parents were entrepreneurs. They bought a motel on the beach. We had a tavern in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They moved us to Florida when I was a teenager. They were entrepreneurs. We talked about money at the dinner table. I hope all of you who have young children are talking about money at the dinner table. They need to talk about money. We need 6-year-olds at our women's conferences. How amazing. And 13-year-olds and 16-year-olds, amazing.
Well, there's a stat that we're going to need to pull back up and maybe do again this year, maybe next year, maybe do it every year and watch the number go down, because I wanted to be up here and speak because when I think it was last year's conference, maybe the year before, you did a poll and 85% of the women in the room felt more comfortable investing in someone else's deal than GPing their own deal. And I could not believe that after all the women I spoke to, because there were women there that seemed so much smarter, so much more sophisticated in so many areas. And I was like, wow, we need to be JVing. We need to be joint venturing. We need to be partners. I don't want you to be my LP. Bring me that deal you said, that Starbucks or that development. Yeah. That's what needs to be happening in this room.
So let's do the poll as we finish this segment out. And again, be honest, and be transparent. Who would be more comfortable LPing a deal than GPing. Right. So again, and this is why I said about masterminds. I don't want to teach you how to do this because I only know retail. I don't know all these other asset classes, but there's so many opportunities, there's so many classes and masterminds and podcasts and books to teach yourselves in asset classes that you like. Like hospitality, my friend Tracy Prigmore, who you've seen on stage, she has a deal where she teaches women how to invest in hotels, and then she has a pitch contest. I've been a judge. I need you to meet her. She's amazing. But there's so many opportunities for you to learn how to do it. I want you to leave here today and tomorrow inspired to want to investigate in the asset class you're interested in. But I think LPing, I LP'd I started in 1992 with the co-signing of the note, and I GP'd my first deal in 2005. So I LP'd from 13 years before I felt confident. And then I thought, I'm confident, and it was very scary. It was very scary.
But you were in the game.
And then there was no looking back. So, ladies, rock stars, thank you so much. Moms, 5 months, thank you so much. Let me get you.